amazing how much your relationship will change. Without going into great detail of the fit, I think Calvin would depress me. You know, the thing, I know it sounds weird, but
No, I understand what you're saying.
the first time I heard of it, I would think I was really mad for like 6 weeks because I'm like, that does not, if he's like that, that's awful. I mean, like, so in my opinion, a lot of times people ask their situations, like pastoral-wise. It's amazing what they believe and how they see God. It's about how we go with it. Particularly when it comes to suffering and sin. You know, whenever it's supposedly that much planned out, predestined.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
So is there one gospel you like the most?
I don't know, man, that's a hard question. There probably is. I've taught all the way through all four. And I think I would say that the better I get to know each of them, the more I like each of them. But if I'm going to be completely honest, I probably, in life in general, would like Matthew the best.
That's my favorite.
Mark is growing on me, but it's got a lot less teaching sections, and I like the balance of that.
Okay. I like the Old Testament. And so,
You like the Jewish.
yeah, I love that stuff. Now I start to kind of like,
I was a touch in no more kid in Georgia.
that's
all
all
the
the
different.
light and darkness, you know, but I like the heart's different for, you know, like, whatever Son of God and Caesar stuff. God, right?
They weren't even that good. How many times? Like,
So,
If your legs aren't that big, no try.
start with it. Those are your favorite things, right?
no.
No. Keep those comfortable. Yeah. I have a bunch of these. They told me I couldn't wear that. I have boys with like I have a beard for down here. This is you guys told me guys was a constant professional. Really? Yeah. Yeah, like
You all doing all right? You gonna be able to
You couldn't tell me that.
make it home here?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Sprint to the finish.
this
All right, it's 2:15, so I'm gonna go ahead and start back up, just because we're gonna sprint pretty hard anyhow, so. Ricardo's just gonna have to catch up once he's gonna have to sprint to catch us. Here we go, there's my man. You're not gonna have to sprint to catch us, you were right there. All right. So let's shift gears and talk about the parables for a little bit. You really need, I think, to devote some attention to learning how to preach the parables well. Because in this cultural context, the parables just seem the indirectness and yet the powerful counterculturalness of the parables. It's just really a good place to go. So we're going to spend some time there. think about parables, and remember, sometimes people almost define parable as story. But really, a parable's bigger than a story. The core idea of parable is really comparison. It's a Greek compound word that essentially means to place alongside. And the idea is analogy, learning through analogy. So you take something you do understand, you compare it with something you don't understand, you come to understand the thing you didn't previously understand. So they're comparisons for the purpose of teaching. Jesus' parables are in many ways true to life, but contain exaggeration. So there's connections to everyday life, but also often an exaggeration that's present as well. I don't know how much I need to really make out of that today. What I want to talk about in the interest of time as it relates to parables. Well, if we're going to think about preacher, again, as storyteller. Last time we're talking about preacher as storyteller, recounting historical events. With the parables, we're talking about preacher as storyteller, working with made-up events that nevertheless have connections to real life, in which people can identify with the story in order to learn something about God, be confronted about something related to themselves. And to think about how these work in the Gospels, it's probably helpful to think about how Jesus' use of parables was similar to and yet different from his rabbinic contemporaries. So Jesus isn't the only guy using parables. It's not like you could identify with Jesus in comparison to other teachers by saying, oh, he's the guy who speaks in parables. Because rabbis used parables as a primary teaching delivery system. So what does Jesus' parables have in common with how other rabbis use parables? Well, for one thing, the subject matter is basically the same. Jesus' parables teach about the kingdom of God, but that doesn't in and of themselves particularly distinguish them. Because rabbis are doing the same thing. So, what makes Jesus' parables different? Well, for starters, I'd say this. Other rabbis used parables to reinforce already accepted truth. They're more using parables to reinforce truth, to illustrate, like you would illustrate in a deductive sermon, that everybody already agreed with coming in anyhow. So you're going to preach a deductive, people need Jesus sermon. So everyone knows it's going to be an evangelism sermon. And everybody already agrees that evangelism is important. And so you make 3 points that they're already expecting. And you illustrate to reinforce that. It's kind of how rabbis use parables. So rabbis use parables to reinforce truth. Jesus used parables to challenge those mindsets, to turn those truths upside down, not as a vehicle for the expected, but rather as a vehicle for the unexpected. This is what makes Jesus' parables so revolutionary and so shocking, so threatening to the status quo. Part of what makes them so powerful, the genius of Jesus' use of parables, is that the message itself is already turning stuff upside down. But Jesus communicates an upside down message by also turning the delivery system, not just the message, but the delivery system's flipped on its head. The message is different than they expect, and the delivery system, rather than reinforcing truth, uses the common expectation of how a parable is going to unfold to actually set up the audience so that the whole thing's flipped. So he uses a form where people will start settling into the established rhythm. And then both the message and the use of the form create a shock. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So parables are volatile, they're challenging, they're surprising, they shock us. And so if you've preached a parable, and it's just another, oh, that was nice, kind of a message, that's not what parables do. Parables surprise. Parables shock. And so what you do in a parable is, first of all, you create a level of identification between the audience and the comparison. And then you have to unpack the story in a way that creates, after that sense of identification, that sense of surprise or shock. If they don't identify with the story, they don't follow it closely enough to be shocked. You've got to establish a connection between the audience and the parable. Otherwise, it's just watching some movie that you can't identify with. You can't identify with the story, it's a bad movie. So even if it's not your world, you have to identify with something that connects you to the character so that you can identify with the story. But then that element of shock has to be present. I mean, think about how many sermons you've heard from parables that it's just so predictable and unfolds in exactly the way that you expect. That's not the parables Jesus told. Now, sometimes it's hard for us because people have already heard the parable. But I will tell you, the teachings of Jesus are so countercultural. They are so revolutionary that I have to confess to you, I have taught, understand, at the college level, I have taught all the way through all four Gospels. I took graduate level seminars in both Matthew and John. I had undergraduate courses in Luke and John. I have spent a lot of time in the Gospels. The Gospels never fail to confront me. The just read them and can easily walk away. It says more about me than it says about the parable. Every time I was in the church about 5-6 years ago, we're going to spend a year with Jesus. We're going to preach from the Gospels all year, nothing but the Gospels for a solid year. All year in the Gospels. I just got in the car and thought, oh man, I'm in trouble. Because it's not just little Jesus in a cage. You come to the petting zoo to see Jesus. Man, I know if we're spending a year in the Gospels, I'm going to get worked over. And so I'm saying, we really look at these, and they can confront you all over again as we struggle to live up to. So you